Homeowners Associations, HOAs, are meant to maintain order and protect property values in communities. But what happens when power falls into the wrong hands? This is the story of how one overzealous HOA president, Brenda, pushed her authority too far, targeting the wrong family and ultimately facing a downfall that no one saw coming. For years, Brenda had ruled the neighborhood with an iron fist. She took HOA regulations to the extreme, issuing excessive fines, enforcing arbitrary rules, and making life miserable for anyone who dared to question her. Many residents lived in fear of her next decree, knowing that even the smallest infraction could result in steep penalties. But her reign of power was about to come to an end, when Brenda decided to flex her authority yet again, attempting to tow what she believed was a commercial vehicle parked in a driveway overnight. She unknowingly set off a chain of events that would lead to her ultimate undoing. What she didn't know was that the car belonged to an undercover police officer, and trying to have it towed would be the biggest mistake of her life. What followed was a dramatic sequence of events: a confrontation in the driveway, a tow truck caught in the middle of a legal nightmare, and an entire community finally standing up against the HOA president who had ruled with intimidation for far too long. This is a tale of justice, resilience, and what happens when someone who abuses their power meets the consequences of their actions. Now, let's dive into the story and witness the downfall of HOA President Brenda. It had been a long day at work, and all I wanted was to get home, park my car, and unwind. But as I pulled into my driveway, I noticed a familiar figure standing at the edge of my property. Brenda, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Brenda had made a name for herself as the neighborhood tyrant. She thrived on nitpicking every little thing, from grass length to the color of seasonal decorations. Over the years, she had fined neighbors for the most ridiculous violations. Someone's Halloween pumpkin was too large. Another family had left their Christmas lights up one day past her deadline. She operated as if she owned the entire community. Tonight, she had her sights set on me. As soon as I stepped out of my car, she approached, clipboard in hand, her expression smug. "That vehicle is in violation of HOA regulations," she announced as if declaring a royal decree. I closed the car door and sighed. "Brenda, what now?" She gestured toward my wife's black sedan. "Commercial vehicles are not allowed to be parked overnight in residential driveways. That car is unacceptable." I frowned, glancing at the car in question. It was a sleek, unmarked black sedan, no company logos, no business-related equipment inside, just a regular vehicle. "That's not a commercial vehicle," I replied evenly, already knowing how this conversation was going to go. She lifted her chin. "According to our rules, any vehicle used for business purposes qualifies as commercial. And since you refuse to comply, I've already called a tow truck." I blinked. "You did what?" Brenda smirked, holding up her laminated rulebook. "The rules apply to everyone. You're not above them." A slow, simmering anger started to rise in me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Brenda was notorious for pushing people into arguments and then claiming they were being aggressive. "You didn't even give me a chance to move it," I said, my voice steady but firm. "The rules are the rules," she said, utterly unfazed. "If you had read them, you'd know this isn't up for debate." I clenched my jaw. "Brenda, you really don't know when to quit." Her smirk widened. "You'll learn to respect the HOA eventually." Just then, the unmistakable rumble of an approaching tow truck filled the street. My stomach dropped. Brenda's grin widened. Perfect timing. The tow truck came to a slow halt in front of my house, its massive frame casting a shadow across the pavement. The driver stepped out, clipboard in hand, his expression neutral as he scanned the scene. He looked like a man who had dealt with all kinds of nonsense before, but even he probably wasn't prepared for Brenda. "Which vehicle?" he asked, flipping through his paperwork. Brenda practically beamed as she pointed at the black sedan. "That one. Remove it immediately." The driver turned to me. "You the owner?" I shook my head. "No, it belongs to my wife." Brenda crossed her arms. "Well, unless she moves it right now, it's gone." A slow smirk crept onto my face. "I wouldn't touch that car if I were you." Brenda scoffed. "Oh please, and why is that?" I leaned in slightly. "Because my wife is an undercover officer, and that's an unmarked police vehicle." Brenda's triumphant smirk vanished. The tow truck driver blinked. "Wait, this is a police vehicle?" I nodded. "Yep, government issued." Brenda turned pale, flipping through her rulebook as if trying to find a rule that would save her. There aren't any police officers in this neighborhood, she stammered. I chuckled. You don't get to decide that. Just then, my wife's personal car pulled into the driveway. She stepped out, sunglasses still on, her expression unreadable. What's going on? She asked. Brenda scrambled for an explanation. Officer, I swear this was a misunderstanding. My wife removed her sunglasses, assessing the situation. Brenda, why is there a tow truck here for my vehicle? Brenda stammered. I didn't know it was yours. I was just enforcing the HOA guidelines. My wife's lips twitched in amusement. So you're saying you reported a police vehicle as a violation? Brenda's hands trembled. I thought it was a commercial car. The tow truck driver, who had been silent until now, sighed. Lady, you wasted my time. You owe me a call-out fee. Brenda's eyes widened. I'm not paying for this. The driver shrugged. Not my problem. You requested a tow. Now you gotta pay. Just then, another patrol car pulled up. A uniformed officer stepped out, scanning the scene before turning to my wife. Everything okay here? Brenda looked ready to faint. The tow truck driver wasted no time. This lady called me out to tow an unmarked police vehicle. The officer frowned. Ma'am, you attempted to tow a government vehicle without verifying its status? Brenda gulped. I was just following the rules. The officer sighed, pulling out his notepad. Attempting to tow police property is a serious offense. I'll need your information for my report. Brenda gasped. A report? No, we can handle this internally. The officer remained unfazed. No, ma'am. This is a legal matter now. Within days of the incident, word had spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Residents whispered on their porches, retelling the story of how Brenda, the ever-dominant HOA president, had tried to tow a police vehicle. Her reputation, which had already been tarnished, was now in complete ruins. The city received multiple complaints from residents who had been victims of Brenda's overreach. A formal review of her time as HOA president was initiated. It didn't take long for them to uncover years of questionable practices. Brenda had imposed fines for non-existent violations, used HOA funds for personal expenses, and pressured homeowners into compliance with threats of legal action. A special HOA meeting was scheduled, with city officials in attendance. Over 100 residents showed up, eager to see Brenda finally held accountable. The moment she stepped onto the stage, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Unlike her usual confident demeanor, she looked nervous. When the meeting began, city officials detailed the findings. Misused funds, false reports, harassment. The violations went on and on. Brenda tried to defend herself. Everything I did was in the best interest of the community, she pleaded, but the crowd erupted in laughter. Finally, the vote was called. 100% in favor of her removal. Brenda had officially lost. But the consequences didn't stop there. With her position stripped, Brenda faced a new problem, the lawsuit. A group of homeowners filed a collective legal case against her, demanding compensation for the fines and stress she had imposed over the years. The city's investigation confirmed she had stolen HOA funds, which meant criminal charges were inevitable. A month later, a squad car pulled up outside Brenda's home. A pair of officers knocked on her door. When she answered, the color drained from her face. Brenda Simmons? One officer asked. She nodded hesitantly. You are under arrest for embezzlement and fraud. The officer continued, pulling out handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent. Brenda's hands trembled as they cuffed her. The entire neighborhood had gathered, watching as she was escorted into the police car. And just like that, the reign of Brenda was over. With Brenda gone, the neighborhood flourished. The new HOA board enacted fair policies, and the restrictive rules Brenda had put in place were abolished. For the first time in years, people felt comfortable in their own homes. As I sat on my porch, watching kids play and hearing neighbors chat freely, my wife nudged me with a smile. Well, she said, I think we can finally enjoy this neighborhood. I smirked. Yeah, and it only took Brenda's downfall to make it happen. Lesson learned. This story teaches us an important lesson about power and accountability. Authority, when misused, can lead to downfall, and those who abuse their positions will inevitably face consequences. Brenda's reign of terror ended the moment she crossed the line and targeted the wrong person. No one is above the law, not even an HOA president. It's also a reminder that standing up to unfair treatment is crucial. Many neighbors suffered in silence under Brenda's leadership, but once they united against her, real change happened. When people come together against injustice, even the most oppressive forces can be defeated. Message to viewers: if this story resonated with you, remember to always question authority when it's being abused. Rules should protect people, not be used as weapons against them. It's important to know your rights and stand firm when you're being treated unfairly. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life tales of justice, resilience, and lessons learned, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Story Precious. We bring you gripping stories every week that not only entertain, but also inspire. Subscribe now to never miss a new episode.